I've seen some talk on the forums from some of you guys on how to remove your power steering pump pulley. Some of them are pressed on, some of them are held on by a nut. There's a spline shaft, and I'll show you that in a minute. But first thing you do is identify your power steering pump. We found the pump. This here's the nut that's holding it on. This is a spline shaft, it's not a press on. Let me zoom in on it. What we're going to do is go ahead and remove the nut. We want to leave the pump bolted on and try to take a hammer and a punch and kind of help along from behind. It shouldn't take much to pull it off. If that don't work, we're going on a workbench. We'll remove the entire pump, put it on a workbench, and use a pulley puller. I'll show you that technique. But there's only two kinds of pulleys. It's either held on by a nut onto a spline shaft, or it's a press on. And of course, after you buy your pump at one of the parts houses, this particular pump came from O'Reilly's. There were 3 different options, but only one option I could get within 48 hours. The others took over a week. Just set it up the best you can, orientate it before you rip it out. Looks to be identical. There's the top one, top connection. The bottom, I'm going to reuse this. One of the option on the O'Reilly pumps, this part came with it. All you do is unhook this hose. That was a 7 to 8 day order on getting that in. The main thing is just take a look at it. This looks to be an identical pump. It does come with some O-rings, the 2 O-rings. And I want to identify the spline shaft. You see the spline shaft, threaded shaft. We're going to reuse the pulley. So you got to be careful when you remove the pulley. You don't want to do any damage to it. We'll see how that goes. This is the 2005 Hyundai Accent. It's got 113,000 miles on it. And I know it's the first time that hose has ever been off. I'm going to go with a small plastic cup. Got to be very careful here because we're going to reuse the same hoses. We did not order any new hoses. They just need a little bit of help. And I don't know if that's visible or not, but it's just coming out a nice slow drain. All that's going to do is drain our reservoir. Reservoir being right here does not hold much. Just going to use a plastic baggie to put up over it. Try to get it out of the way without putting a lot of pressure on it. So we're going to attempt to reuse the hoses. And it'll catch out of the way here pretty nice. Got just a little bit of dripping out of the pump. The cup's being held in down there by the alternator. I'm just going to leave it and we'll take the top one off. The top nut holding the pressure line down, going to the rack and pinion, is a 24 millimeter. Looks like a copper washer on the top. Another copper washer for the bottom seal. I'll be looking at that closer with a flashlight, see if there is an O-ring involved. Let that drip just a little bit. No other O-rings to be seen on it. So we're good with those copper washers. And I don't see no reason why they can't be reused, which is what we're going to do. We'll get her in the ziplock baggie, kind of get it out of the way. Again, don't put a lot of pressure on anything. No unnecessary crimps. Be gentle with everything. It's 14 years old. It's got a lot of hot and cold cycles on it. It's pumped thousands and thousands of gallons of fluid in its career. It's probably tired. It probably should be replaced, but we're not going to replace it. So be careful when you bend and flex things out of the way. Keep telling yourself you're going to go back with it. This car has been properly serviced at Hyundai dealerships throughout its life at regular maintenance intervals. The fluid does not look that bad. I know it's hard for you to see it, but when we go up on the side of the cup and go back down, it is dark. It doesn't look that bad. It takes regular ATF. They've got a different specification for it. I think Dexron, even Mercon, they're all together now. Any kind of ATF or Dexron, even Dexron 3, 4, 5, it's all backwards compatible for it. Okay, to remove this pulley, it's got 2 holes in it. What I'm going to do is find something you're not too proud of. This is a 19mm nut. We're going to keep turning it. It has two holes. This is a very old, heavily insulated screwdriver. I want to protect the pulley because we're going to reuse the pulley. And I got to get something in there where it will lock into the pump itself. I found a hole going through the pulley and through the power steering bracket, the mounting bracket. Screwdriver will go clear through it right here, and we're going to try to see if that holds it. So I'm not, I think I'm going to block everything on the camera. It came loose. I'll let you see the situation there. The screwdriver is through a hole in the pulley. It's on a piece of rubber. You can see the damage it done. There's quite a bit of pressure on it. Again, I wanted to try it. If it was too much trouble, I just remove the whole thing and remove it on a bench with a pulley puller. Before we do that, we're going to loosen up the pump. It's 12mm. And I see some kind of a lock washer. Make sure you don't lose that. Yeah, lock washer. Set it aside. We got lucky. The pulley came right off without a bit of rust on it. We're going to reuse the belt. This pulley does appear to be in good shape. You can see we did no damage. The only damage was put a couple of good bites on this insulated screwdriver. We're going to take the pump off, go to the bench, and change out our other components. On the top one that you use to adjust the belt on your power steering pump has a big flat washer and a lock washer. The bottom bolt has a captive nut on the mounting bracket. You don't have to worry about it, you just got to get it out. Now it has a big lock washer on the back of it. This is a very special bolt, and I'll show you why. My research tells me that the Hyundai Elantras is almost the exact same setup on their power steering. You can see this bolt, very special made, that taper on it. So you definitely don't want to lose him. See the taper on it. Nor do you want to strip him out. Don't tighten him that tight. All it's doing is going through, and it gives the power steering pump a pivoting point. Your adjustment and all the pressure is held on this upper bolt. There's a little pump. Fits in the palm of your hand, almost. Hyundai wants $600 for the pump alone, plus about another $150 to put it on. Well, that's a lot. I'm not even sure this particular car is worth $600. Get your orientation correct on it. Our splines look identical, of course. This is how it's going to go. We're going to move this component over to here, and I suppose this is where our O-rings come into play. Wipe this off really good. These are 12mm bolts also. I want to turn this on the side and break these loose. These should not be that tight. And they're not. They are snug. They are slightly tightened. Keep in mind the O-rings doing all your work. Let's take a look. There's our O-ring. Let me show you something on an O-ring. O-ring is very flat. and hard. This car had no leaks. Don't want to get any contaminants in that hole. The old O-ring is considerably harder. But don't forget your orientation, but this, like this dog ear went up on this fitting. Now let your top fitting kind of lock against it to keep it from turning too much. We have a good fit on the O-ring now. Gonna snug him down, help hold him in place while I start this one. Bolt started real nice. So on the pricing on these pumps, this pump came from O'Reilly for about $132 or $3 strip, like you've seen it. Ordered on a Saturday afternoon, picked up on a Tuesday afternoon. The next in line and the one after that, one went up to $143 maybe, and this component that we just swapped out is already on the remanufactured pump. So you wouldn't have to do any swapping, it's there. And in the next line, this component was on it, and I think it might have had the pulley on it, I can't remember. I think it had the pulley on it. It was $168.99, but again, it came from California, special order, and I think he said it would take 7 to 8 days to get it. So same thing with Napa. Napa didn't stock any. They could get them, but it took like 7 days to get them. So this is the quickest pump I could get. I know there's a torque specification on these. I don't care. I know how tight they were, and I know it's just this O-ring you're trying to compress. That is a very small O-ring here, so that's not much more than a 1/4 inch inside diameter. This is the pressure side of the pump. We're ready to go back on with him. We had some oil spilled down in there. We're just going to take a little bit of brake clean and touch it up. It will evaporate good. And what I want to do is spray a little brake clean on a paper towel and run it over that belt. Go ahead and spin that belt. Not going to hurt a thing. Get the oil off of it. It's driven by only one other pulley, so we've only got to worry about 2 pulleys. Here's that captive nut on the mounting bracket. We're going to put this one in first. Now let's try to get her on. Just want to make sure you go through the other one. I'm going to go ahead and just snug him up while everything is out of the way. And then I'm just going to back him up enough so he'll pivot. So I'm going to go ahead and tighten him, or snug him. I want to back him off. It's a good easy pivot. I want to leave the reman sticker on there if I can, just for grins. I think I'm going to leave him as loose as I can get him for now, because I want to put my pulley on. Put the pulley on now, get the belt out of the way. This one nice and easy. We'll look at alignment here in a minute. Don't forget your lock washer. My arms might block most of this. I apologize. We're going to very carefully find a place where we can wedge that pulley and still allow us to tighten it. And that's kind of hard to do. Well, we're going to go in there pretty easy. I think that's going to be the ticket right there. Just let it bind up. want to mention that this new pump, I noticed on the workbench, the pulley, the shaft turns like it's got some constant pressure on it, kind of like a new pump should. The old one turned very easy. I'm going to go ahead and put the belt on. And it's a constant thing. Need to keep the oil off everything the best we can. I haven't done really good on that. But on the other hand, I don't think it's that bad. We'll go ahead and adjust the belt and then put our hoses on. On your tightness, you can tell that's too loose. Some of them say a 1/2 inch deflection either way. Well, on this short of a throw, I think that's excessive. So I'm just going to go by feel. Your mileage may vary. You don't want it any tighter than it has to be. It just damages the bearings and the seals. You'll get onto it. You can tell what's too tight. And tighten up your pivot bolt last. And you don't have to go nuts on him because he ain't going anywhere. Bag's got some oil in it, just from laying down there. Let me discard that right quick. Putting him back exactly where he came from. Okay, remember you got 2 copper washers here. You very carefully wipe him off. You'll see the notch to keep it from pivoting. It's a pretty cool idea, I think. Something simple. This notch will catch on this guy. Got a washer on the bottom, washer on top. Pretty neat fitting, really. Keeps it in line for the curve and everything. One of the hardest things to do after installing a new power steering pump can be to get the air out of it. Guys, I just want to touch on this. I bought the pump at O'Reilly's, told him I want 2 quarts of ATF, and asked him to look it up in his computer to confirm what it does take. I said it's something about an SP3, SP2. Well, he looked it up, he came up with this, and sure enough, it's a Dexron 4, Mercon, ATF plus 4, O'Reilly's, Global, ATF. You turn it over, in the fine print, I know you can't read it on the camera, but it does list Hyundai SP2 and SP3. So we're going to be good on that. All I'm going to do is take it up to max. I'm going to go ahead and start it up and run it just for a few seconds. That's the idea of it. You want to get as much in there with gravity. This is coming in on this hose through gravity until once the pumping action takes over. Once this starts pumping out, it's going to suck in as much as it pumps out. And that's all we're trying to do, is get up to a 1/2 quart in this system. Right now there's practically nothing in there. Okay, we're going to start it up for just a few seconds. We're going to try to get some of that fluid level to come down. Then we're going to shut it off, turn it manually. Sorry about that, I never had the camera on. It made a squealing noise and went ahead and had the motor running and turned the pump, turned the steering wheel a little bit left and right, and it sucked it right up. We're going to try it again. Turning the wheel lock to lock without the car running is extremely difficult. If I have to do that, I'll just jack the front end up. And I put in too much. That's my fault. I just pulled an idiot trick. It's aerating real bad to hit that pump. It's not going down much, but it steers wonderful. And what I did after I filled it up the second time, put the cap on, start the car, just move the steering wheel 5 or 6 inches left and right. You can see this through the windshield. It's kind of hanging right there. It's really not going to take much, because in reality, all I got out was this reservoir full plus this hose full. Nothing leaked out of the pressure side going down through the rack and pinion, and while a little bit was in the pump, that wouldn't be more than a matter of ounces. So I think we're going to be good. Before this, before the change out, the old pump was squealing, and the harder you turned, the more you turned, the more it squealed, and it would even get to the point where it locked up. I wish I would have had that on film, but I never videoed that part. In this shot you can see the pump working, the reservoir. We'll see if it goes down anymore. I don't think it will, and the wheel's turning. There you have it. Steers wonderful. Quiet, no more squealing. See what the belt tension looks like. Belt feels good. Our level is right at the minimum. Needs to be gotten good and hot. And then we'll check for leaks, of course, down here. I'm gonna do a final wipe down with some paper towels and some brake clean just to tidy it up. 2005 Hyundai Accent. If you have any questions, don't be afraid to put them in the comment. Chances are, if you're thinking about a certain question, somebody else is too. They're just not asking. I'll do my best to answer it. And please subscribe, and I thank you for watching.